Welcome in, everyone, on this Wednesday night. We're starting our live stream of Wave News Extra, and we do appreciate, as always, that you're able to join us as we unpack some of the day's big stories. Enjoying this view from our Paristown Skytrack camera, and looking like a clear night. Much discussion, by the way, probably renewing, if any of you happen to catch a great view, a good glimpse of the Aurora Borealis, wherever you didn't have as much light pollution here in our neck of the woods in Wave Country. By the way, keep sending those pictures. We'd love to include them for later tonight on Wave News at 11. So we hope you'll join us and want to send us any of your images you've taken. And I'm Jose Society here in the Wave Now studio. We're jumping right into some of the day's biggest updates, headlines, and stories we're continuing to cover. The least of which is, of course, the continuing fallout of the deadly UPS cargo plane crash, and now 14 names that this community will remember forever. And, of course, the heartbreak in the case of the county coroner's office, essentially confirming their identities, what remained of them, and confirming their names to us today for the first time. Today we learned the names of each of the men, women, and even the child killed by what happened with Flight 2976. The Jefferson County coroner this afternoon saying all of the victims have been positively ID'd through DNA, as well as medical dental records. Coroner Joanne Farmer today receiving praise from Mayor Craig Greenberg as her office completed the task of recovering, IDing, and notifying the families of the victims. They explained it was a process that was done less than 24 hours ago. The office relying on DNA testing, dental records, and medical records to match everyone with who they were. And that's what made today's announcement possible when Farmer read their names. I believe if what I was playing for you, of course, is video of the scene of the tragedy. And what we'll play now is Coroner Farmer reading those names out loud.
Dana Diamond, 62 years old. Captain Richard Wartenberg, 57 years old. First Officer Lee Truitt, 45 years old. Angela Anderson, 45 years old. Carlos Fernandez, 52 years old. Louisness Thedden, 47 years old. And Kimberly Asa, who was the granddaughter 3 years old of Mr. Faden. Trinidad Trina Chavez, 37 years old. Continuing, there's Tony Crane, 65 years old. John Locks, 52 years old. John Spray, 45 years old. Matthew Sweets, 37 years old. Ella Petty Orton, 31 years old, and Megan Washburn, 35 years old.
And so you heard the list there from Coroner Joanne Farmer. For those in attendance who spoke at the lectern, calling it a very powerful moment and a turning point in this aftermath of the investigation of the deadly disaster. The attention for those involved, the stakeholders in the investigation, now focusing on doing that work, reopening the crash site so businesses that are able to again open their doors can do so, and in theory workers who are coming back can go to work. Mayor Craig Greenberg at the presser today saying the city is feeling the pressure to get this done and to get Grade Lake open as soon as they can. What we're wanting to play, if we can, some more video for you is a graphic so you could see their names played out there, slowly learning a bit more and more about all 14 people who perished, parents, children, partners, friends, and neighbors. People who the Wave News reporting team, is learning more and more. The families are absolutely heartbroken. Everyone sharing very similar sentiments, and their focus is on coming together as families support one another. You saw pictures of the 3 crew members on board Flight 2976, Captain Dana Diamond, Captain Richard Wartenberg, First Officer Lee Truitt. As for the 11 people who died on the ground, Louis Faden, his 3-year-old granddaughter, Kimberly, were together in the area of the crash. Loved ones say Louis was a quiet man who was always helping others. 3 grade A employees died at work. Megan Washburn, a mom of 2, a scrap metal buyer, and a customer experience agent. John Locks was a heavy equipment operator. Trina Chavez, who had been working at Grade A for about 3 years, leaves 2 children behind. And you saw image just in that last loop of Matthew Sweets. He was rushed to the hospital the night of the crash, burns on 95% of his body. He died about 2 days later, leaving behind his partner and their 2 young children. And in this graphic, you can read now the remaining 5 victims whose pictures we don't yet have to share with you, but all of them who also, so tragically perished on the ground. Angela Anderson, Tony Crane, Carlos Fernandez, John Spray, and Ella Petty Horton are finishing out, of course, the 14 who did not survive. An update from last night, about fairly late last night, was the confirmation from the mayor's office, from the mayor posting on social media that there is a community resource phone number open moving forward for anyone who's impacted by the deadly plane crash. The number, I'll remind folks again, but I'll just say it out loud as if you're joining us in the live stream. So it's 502-473 5271. Again, so area code 502-473-5271. If you need to get connected to any resources to try and help you just to get back on stable footing, this number is still taking phone calls later into the night. In fact, it should still be open for the next 49 minutes. It operates from 7 to 9, except on Sundays. At the same time, we know local businesses are trying to recover as best as they can. As we reported, they've gotten creative with how they're working to get their own operations back up and running as smoothly as possible. As part of our continuing team coverage, Wave News reporter Kirsten Foote is sharing more on one company's continued efforts.
Here at this Bullitt County warehouse, it's one of many temporary homes for Quantum Ink Company, a business located near the UPS plane crash site. They had exactly 3 hours Wednesday morning to go into their building and get anything that they needed. They called it Operation Extraction.
It's been chaotic, but also a little bit of, kind of just thankful too.
Grieving families are dealing with the loss of their loved one, and cleanup work continues at the crash site while businesses in the area look to move forward, one of them being Quantum Ink Company.
We were thankful that our employees and a lot of our people got out safe, unlike some of them that perished, and condolences to those families.
Their building, where they manufacture 50,000 pounds of water-based printing ink a day, didn't so much as sustain a scratch. But they're located close enough to the crash site, they haven't been able to get into the building to make ink, disrupting employees' lives and the business.
So we had a lot of ink that we had pre-made, a lot.
At 5 o'clock Wednesday morning, they were able to get a police escort into their building and remove as much as possible.
With 3 trucks, we weren't sure how quick we could get them in and out, and it was a hard cutoff at 8 o'clock.
Then what they call an organized chaos broke out, grabbing what they could.
The ballpark, 120,000 pounds of ink came out. I think it was about 60 skids, packaging materials, things like that. So, and they're going to sit here for a day and they're going to go everywhere.
For President Adam Bland, it was a needed breakthrough as customers wait for their supplies and Quantum Ink continues adjusting.
We're going forward. Today was one miracle that got to happen that keeps us going. Tomorrow there'll probably be another one. We're coming through this at the end of the day better.
The Quantum Ink Company owners tell me that they've been told they may be able to get back into their building located near that crash site and fully operational within the next month. Reporting in Bullitt County, Kirsten Foote, Wave News.
A reminder that in all of our continuing coverage, you can always follow along, not just on the free Wave News app or here as we broadcast live as we do in our newscast, but also here on the live stream and on wave3.com. And some more stories to share with you tonight, conversations about affordability as far as economic pressure and issues for a lot of folks. There's a new report revealing a lot of communities around the country are dealing with what researchers are coining as a term mortgage deserts. Effectively, they're places where relatively few homes are being bought with a mortgage, and that makes it harder for a family in a situation like this to build that wealth through their equity. And as part of our Watching Your Wallet series with our national reporting partners, investigator Carice Jackman shows why these mortgage deserts exist and who is most affected.
Liz Coyle has dedicated her life to helping others. She's the executive director of Georgia Watch, a statewide consumer advocacy organization focused on improving quality of life and consumer policy. One barrier to that goal, access to mortgages.
For too long, generation after generation, Black and brown Americans, they're deliberately redlined against, and barriers are put in place. And you mentioned earlier, this is a systemic problem.
A new report from the Consumer Federation of America analyzed mortgage deserts across the country, or communities where few homes are purchased with a mortgage. This map from the report shows both urban and rural communities nationwide affected by these deserts.
These are the top urban mortgage deserts in the country. And in both places, like around 50% of all homes were sold without a mortgage. They've seen a lot of institutional investors, so large investment companies that buy up single-family homes to rent them out. But as a result, it's much harder to become a homeowner in those communities.
Sharon Cornelissen, Director of Housing at Consumer Federation of America, wrote the report. She says mortgage deserts develop for different reasons. In some areas, vacation homes are bought with cash, but they're more common, Cornelissen found, in communities struggling with poverty and lower home values.
So when homes are only worth like $100,000, for example, or $120,000 on average, a lot of lenders don't want to do business there because it's not very profitable.
Cornelissen says both federal and state lawmakers need to invest in housing repair programs and expand mortgage financing if they want these deserts to disappear. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Carice Jackman.
Now, if you're someone you know might be struggling to obtain that mortgage, consumer experts like Coyle, who you heard from at the top of Carice Jackman's report, says it is worth perhaps reaching out to local nonprofits and advocacy groups who can connect you and perhaps then advocate on your behalf when it comes to trying to lock in that application and the eventual mortgage. Hope you stay with us after the break here on Wave News Extra, because today also marking a somber anniversary for so many who were impacted by the Givaudan factory explosion in Clifton. So we're going to go over what has happened ever since, where things stand, perhaps as the future of the site, the impact, and where the families and families of the victims and perhaps those homeowners nearby, where things stand for their own quality of life, and a conversation with the partner of one of the workers who died, just a snippet, because it'll be a full report we're going to share with you with Julie Richardson reporting on that tonight at 11. So we're going to take a quick break. Much more to come here on Wave News Extra. Welcome back to Wave News Extra. Today marks a year since the deadly explosion at at the Givaudan factory in the Clifton neighborhood here in Louisville. 2 people lost their lives. 11 more were hurt by the blast. These are employees Kevins Dawson Jr., KD, as many knew him, and Austin Jaggers, the 2 who died after a cooking vessel failed. The explosion also caused widespread damage to the nearby homes and businesses, and this is just a bit of our angle of what's left behind. Givaudan is not rebuilding at the site. Instead, Louisville city leaders have been holding meetings looking for public input on what to do with the property. Meanwhile, the U.S. Chemical Safety Board is continuing to look into the explosion. Here's what we know from their most recent update. They described lab tests that they conducted on food coloring that was in that reactor when it blew up. Their results showed that the materials inside could result in a hazardous runaway reaction, even under the container's normal operating limits, as the CSB described it, the Chemical Safety Board. The tests they took also showed rapid, dangerously high increases in pressure and temperature while the materials on site were processed. The CSB says it is still continuing to examine the cause of the explosion. Bringing you back to the site, some police tape of the mangled mess. The future's still up in the air. We've been, of course, through the course of looking into the troubled history of issues with the company, and the community's response has been part of our ongoing reporting. And you see there our Wave News reporter Logan Perrone checking back in with a resident who had been warning of concerns long before the explosion. That's Alex Roberts. He has lived on Payne Street right next to the site since 2016, documenting issues with Givaudan, as he put it, in the years leading up to the deadly blast, from smells and noise to issues impacting his own home. In the months that followed, Roberts says problems persisted. That records we uncovered show the materials underneath the site escaped, impacting the groundwater because of heavy rain in April. pH levels of the water in the area were also tested, came back at levels strong enough to cause chemical burns. That's a month MSD. Asked the state to come oversee the site. It's not clear if that request was ever granted. Roberts telling Logan that he feels the situation hasn't been handled the way that the overall community would like.
None of my feelings are positive. I don't see positive momentum towards a good solution for the community. I don't see positive movement in terms of my case. I don't see positive movement in terms of Givaudan's response to the community.
Louisville city leaders say they have been holding the meetings looking for that public input. Givaudan had previously said that KYDEP, Department of Environmental Protection, is in control of the site, but no demolition will begin until they release the site to them. Wave News has reached out to Givaudan for any comment on the anniversary of said explosion, and so far, as of tonight, we have yet to receive a response. In the context of all this, an acutely painful day for a woman who lost her partner and one of the 2 workers killed by that factory explosion. In this case, it is the partner of Kevins Dawson Jr. Her name is Malika Watson. And in the time since the explosion, she shared that some of her regular mornings trying to go to work, care for her kids, have been a struggle. And tonight, she made time to talk to Wave News reporter Julia Richardson about the journey through her grief, leading on a neighborhood resource group. This is a snippet of the conversation that they shared this afternoon that we want to share it with you as a Wave News Extra exclusive, leading up to Julia's reporting tonight on Wave News at 11.
It was rough. I was expecting to get up and keep it moving. That was my plan. We're gonna be all right. We're gonna get up. We're gonna get the kids together and keep it moving. But I didn't wake up like that. I couldn't really move this morning. I was kind of froze. Thank God I was able to call in for work. My kids helped me this morning as they got ready for school. It's just been kind of rough. Just remembering what I lost.
Who was he to you?
Katie was a teacher. Anytime, it's the last thing you're thinking about when you date someone is a teacher, but he was a teacher. He was a provider. He was a protector. But most importantly to me, he was a teacher. He taught me things as a grown woman I should have already knew. But I thank him for the mindset. Just don't want the world to forget him. We were only together for approximately 5 years.
That's a long time.
My
Yeah.
wife and I.
That's a long time. Yeah. In those 5 years, and I'm sure that there are so many memories that you have with him. Are there any favorites that you want to share?
He loved to ride. He loved to travel. So he took me all over. I've seen some places and some things, and I've ate some great places. But the most memorable were the travel, the conversations in the car, conversations about credit, the conversations about building, providing for for my children. That's what I miss the most.
And your children start to see him as a father figure, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I've got 4 boys and a daughter. I've got 2 in high school. 2 out of have graduated, but I've got 2 in high school that looked up to Katie.
And for them, I mean, how has this year been, losing that role model?
It's been rough, but I've been trying to tell my kids to find him in everything, right? First and foremost, we need our strength. We need our faith. We can't make it without it. But to find the good in it, right? Like to get up and keep moving, even though I couldn't today.
And so that was our Julia Richardson part of her conversation with Malika Watson. Hope you join us as she'll break down much more of the aftermath and the impact a year after the Givaudan explosion. Joining us tonight for our newscast on Wave News at 11, her original reporting. In the context of Givaudan, we know at least 4 lawsuits have been filed against the company, one of them being a wrongful death lawsuit for Kevin Dawson Jr. Another is a separate lawsuit on behalf of Austin Jagger's estate, which we learned was actually filed just today. The third we know of is a class action lawsuit neighbors filed whose homes were damaged from the blast. And a fourth one is from a DoorDash driver who says the explosion triggered his PTSD from military service in Iraq and that he lost money subsequently from needing treatment. Well, what I was going to try to show you all, the reason this was it was a feed of inside the halls of Congress. The reason is the breaking news you might have seen playing on our NBC feed as the House just passed its bill to end the nation's longest government shutdown. And so now that you see the House adjourned and they won't be back until Thursday morning, the context being, yes, the vote just happened, sending the measure to President Trump's desk for his signature after a historic 43-day funding lapse. If I could take you back out to this view of Capitol Hill, the Senate had already passed the measure. Democrats wanted to extend an enhanced tax credit that lowers the cost of health coverage through Affordable Care Act marketplaces and refused to go along with a spending bill that did not include the priority as a guarantee. Republicans said that was a separate policy fight that had to happen at another time. They eventually prevailed as the shutdown took an increasing toll on the country. So a breakdown and reaction, that's going to be something we'll break down for you as we get more information, more sound from Kentucky lawmakers and those in leadership up on Washington, D.C. We're going to have that for you throughout the course of the night here on Wave News. The other big story of the day is set up some video here was with a release of 23,000 pages of documents from Jeffrey Epstein's estate after months of delays. House Republicans having released those tens of thousands. The move follows a Democrats' release of emails suggesting President Trump may have been more familiar with Epstein's activities than he had previously detailed. Reporter Gabe Gutierrez has these details from Washington.
The White House is saying House Democrats cherry-picked the emails they released from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. The press secretary here this afternoon saying the emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact President Trump did nothing wrong. In 2011, Epstein emailed his co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell and said, "I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted name, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned." The White House says the redacted name is Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's most prominent accusers. Giuffre, who died by suicide earlier this year, never accused Trump of wrongdoing. Writing in her memoir, Trump couldn't be friendlier. In another newly released email from 2019, after Epstein was indicted on sex trafficking charges, he wrote Trump knew about the girls. He asked Ghislaine to stop. President Trump has said that he kicked Epstein out of his club and cut off their relationship years before Epstein got into legal trouble. But after Epstein started stealing employees away from Mar-a-Lago to go work for him, including Giuffre. Also today, Republicans released 23,000 more pages of documents. In one email, Epstein writes, quote, "I know how dirty Donald is," while commenting on a report about Trump violating campaign finance laws. Democrats are demanding more transparency about the Epstein case, but the president is also ramping up pressure on members of his own party, urging them to drop the issue. President Trump has never been charged with any crime related to Epstein and has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, the White House.
Quick look at our SkyTrack network as we're going to head to a quick break with more headlines and big stories from this Wednesday. And of course, we'll keep looking into the breaking news just happening, the ending of the government shutdown with the House passing the Senate's proposal. We're going to break down more stories closer to Louisville Metro and the Commonwealth of Kentucky when we come back after the break. More Wave News Extra live stream. The Texas man indicted on charges of threatening U of L's football coach, his family, and his starting quarterback flew to Louisville to turn himself in. Brian Mandel booked into jail just before midnight last night and court before 9 this morning. Our Wave News troubleshooter Mark Stevens finding out Mandel's expected to go back to Texas. He pleaded not guilty to the 7-count indictment against him in brief court hearing. He's charged with 6 counts of terroristic threatening, 1 count of extortion. Prosecutors did not reveal the content of Mandel's messages Wednesday, but U of L police reported in their campus crime log that threats were made over email and phone communication to the football team Saturday. A grand jury indicted Mandel Monday. He's a Corpus Christi real estate broker and home builder. He also lists himself as chief technology officer for his father's security company. Federal spending records show the company has won contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars over the years for ICE and for DHS. He is also, Mandel, on the Corpus Christi Planning Commission. Judge Tracy Davis agreed to keep Mandel's bond at $100,000 full cash with prohibitions on gambling and drinking alcohol when he bonds out of jail.
We actually met with the Commonwealth and the detective in the case last night, and he surrendered and turned himself in.
Now, in a statement, Mandel said, quote, upon learning of the indictment, I promptly traveled to Kentucky yesterday to resolve the situation with the authorities, and I am remaining here while working through the active legal process. Quote, going on to say, I was not contacted by the University of Louisville or law enforcement prior to learning of the indictment in the press. We anticipate a complete resolution in the coming weeks. The prosecutor saying Mandel will post bond and return to Texas. He is due back in court in February. And more updates tonight. We've learned champion horse racer Dale Romans. He has background and knows what it's like to be in a race sometimes as a long shot. He says he's going to put that experience to work now entering the race for U.S. Senate. Romans, Democrat, wants the seat being vacated by Republican Mitch McConnell. Kentucky voters have not elected a Democratic Party senator since 1992. Romans telling the press today he believes voters are ready for something different. He says he would work to repeal tariffs, restore and expand healthcare, and solve immigration. Romans describing himself as an independent Democrat who could appeal to voters in both parties.
The Democrat has to prove to the Republican Party that he's a person that they don't have to be afraid to vote for. A more centered Democrat. I'm not going to be a left-wing Democrat. I'm an independent Democrat. And the power that goes along with being a Democrat in Washington from a red state is strong.
Romans joins a growing field of candidates who are seeking the Democratic Party's nomination. I have a graphic for you here. It's a little compressed, but some of the other names included are former Senate candidate Amy McGrath, State Representative Pamela Stevenson, whose picture you do see there, former Secret Service agent Logan Forsyth, ex-CIA officer Joe Willett, and now, of course, Dale Romans in the fray as well. As for the Republican side vying to see who would become the successor within the party for Mitch McConnell, former State Attorney General Daniel Cameron, Congressman Andy Barr, and businessman Nate Morris based out of Lexington, the general election is still slated for November 3rd of 2026. Well, a Jefferson County grand jury indicted a man on charges having to do with a deadly September shooting. 36-year-old Dantes Edwards, whose picture you see here, was indicted for murder, possession of a handgun by a convicted felon, and unlawful transaction with a minor. The shooting happened September 28th on West Market Street in the Russell neighborhood. The victim, who was an adult man, died before he could receive medical help. Edwards was already in custody at Metro Corrections on charges unrelated to the Market Street homicide. LMPD previously charged a 15-year-old in this case. That youth is charged with murder and possession of a gun by a minor. In more stories, LMPD's also made an arrest in the shooting at Double Deuce Bar and Grill back October 18th. 45-year-old Chaz Ross is charged with 2 counts of assault, being a felon with a gun, and illegally firing a firearm. He was arrested last night, being held at Metro Corrections right now. 2 women were hurt by that gunfire. Councilwoman Tammy Hawkins has previously claimed the bar offered one of them a VIP card if she did not report the shooting to police. Metro ABC issued an emergency suspension of Double Deuce's liquor license. And now to a story that's gained a lot of interest further east here in the Commonwealth. It's a Central Kentucky story of a 4-month-old baby, one of more than a dozen infants who have now been hospitalized with infant botulism. The FDA says these 15 infants across the country had exposure to the ByHeart formula product. ByHeart has since recalled all of its infant formulas to test for quality and contamination. And now the mom of this young infant tells reporter Samantha Valentino that she wants other parents to learn from her daughter's story.
Piper Everett is just 4 months old.
Watching them do the heating tube and do the IVs was awful.
Piper's mom, Hannah Everett, says she started acting strange on Saturday. She was constipated, not eating, and overall seemed sick.
30 minutes later, I had a friend send me that recall. And I was like, oh my God.
ByHeart Whole Nutrition Infant Formula had been recalled, linked to an outbreak of infant botulism. The Food and Drug Administration is investigating as 84 infants have received treatment for infant botulism from August 1st through Monday. 40% of them had exposure to ByHeart Whole Nutrition Infant Formula. It was Everett's go-to formula, and Piper had consumed it that same day. The family rushed Piper to the hospital.
Seeing your baby with an IV in her hand, it's something that's just crazy, you know. just kind of makes you sick to your stomach.
Piper spent several days receiving treatment here at UK Hospital, but now she's finally been able to go home.
She definitely seems a lot more like herself, very bubbly and smiley, and she's back to sucking on her bottle. So that's why they let us get released today, because prior she had been too.
Piper will still have to undergo feeding and speech therapy, but Everett says she's grateful her case wasn't more severe.
Why we just really want to advocate for this. We got her caught early enough that she didn't have to have a ventilator and all these other things.
Symptoms include constipation, poor feeding, loss of head control, and difficulty swallowing. The CDC says they can take as long as several weeks to develop.
So we just really want other people to know what to look for and to be really vigilant.
In Lexington, Samantha Valentino, WKYT.
Now, the reporters out there in Lexington also talked to a pediatric infectious disease doctor at UK who could talk a little bit more about infant botulism. So far, the FDA saying Piper's case is the only one reported in Kentucky. Symptoms can take some time to appear, so experts are fearing that, unfortunately, more of this kind of case could pop up. It's Dr. Randall D'Souza saying parents, if they're concerned at all, should listen to A, the recall, B, stop feeding your child the By Heart infant formula product. Dr. D'Souza saying if your child hasn't shown signs, you should still continue to watch out for any of these the next several weeks. Could be a weak sense of that they're not swallowing, their cries are very soft. It could progress into eye weakness, loss of facial expression, loss of control of their limbs or their head. The more eventually distressing sign is loss of muscle and respiratory function would be something where that case is now extremely severe, according to Dr. D'Souza. And if your child should start to show any of these signs, go seek immediate medical attention. We have one more set of stories to share with you tonight on Wave News Extra. So we're going to take another break and be right back to share the last bit of tonight's live stream. Thanks for staying with us on the live stream on Wave News Extra, folks. We always love to let you all know about traffic alerts. So this big heads up for Louisville drivers. It's a construction project that is going to impact likely a lot of people's regular routes on I-71. It's a 2-mile stretch from the I-65-71 interchange near Frankfurt Avenue to the Zorn Avenue interchange on I-71. So this project is going to widen the road from 4 to 6 lanes and make some other safety upgrades. State transportation leaders saying some lanes are going to stay open during busy travel times, but there still could be changes to the normal traffic pattern and flow. It's a 2-year project expected to start Monday with overnight lane closures, possibly every night from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. So just understand that is in the cards or for what could happen next for drivers here in the Louisville metro area. Crossing over to southern Indiana, where the Department of Homeland Security's residential safe room program, it launched in 2015 to add storm safety rooms for many Indiana homeowners. The design basic, but for those who would not have it otherwise, priceless if Mother Nature ever unleashed her wrath when it comes to tornadoes and these kinds of very dangerous weather systems. Wave News anchor Rob Wells shows us how Hoosiers in this case can cash in to make their own homes safer.
As executive director of the Indiana Department of Homeland Security, Jonathan Witham says that storm safety rooms are a sure bet.
I am 100% confident that these rooms do save lives, especially when you've got homes that don't have basements, don't have that really solid interior room where you and your family can go.
Witham says this is a picture of one right after the EF5 tornado that struck Joplin, Missouri in 2011, killing 158 people.
They're not fancy. They are not designed for people to stick around very long, but just to survive that storm and then get out.
He says until the end of November, Hoosiers can register to win a $5,000 grant for the Indiana Residential Safe Room Program.
These types of safe rooms are kind of, they're the modern standard. So these are the prefab metal structures that are really easy to dig a hole in a yard, place it, and then cover it up.
The Indiana Department of Homeland Security will randomly select 33 homeowners to receive funds through the program, which is supported by the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Typically, it's folks who don't have that safe space inside their home. And so it could be the 80-year-old grandmother whose life is just as important as the family of four. And so we want as many applications as possible. What this does is it tells us how much interest there is.
Rob Wells, Wave News.
Rob, Lauren from Witham and the IDHS that so far 2,000 Indiana residents or households, as it were, have applied for this grant. Again, it is only available for folks with homes with property in Indiana. You can apply with the link we do have available on wave3.com. Our last story of tonight on this Wednesday. Perhaps looking at the calendar, feeling pressure from some in your inner circle for getting that holiday shopping done. It can feel pretty easy, fast, convenient online, but being out there in the digital sphere can also be the perfect place to run into phishing scams, data breaches, new ways that people out there might try to steal your money and your joy. So tonight, Wave News anchor Dawn G had a chance to talk to a technology innovator and leader who has tips to help you stay safe and to also make ends meet this holiday season.
The estimates from analysts this year is that there's going to be over $300 billion spent during the holiday season online shopping.
Dr. Stephanie Benoit Kurtz is the lead cybersecurity faculty at University of Phoenix and principal security consultant at Trace3, an IT consulting organization. She knows online shopping is easy and convenient for consumers, but she wants you to understand cyber criminals are getting extremely savvy as they shop for what they want too.
So there's a variety of threats this year that are trends that have been evolving that are a little different than years past.
The threats are evolving, multiplying, and getting much harder to detect.
Now what we're starting to see is targeted feeds out of social media to fraudulent websites and with links to be able to capture information that's going to put your data and your credit cards at risk.
Santa is not the only one watching you during the holiday season. Bad actors might be watching even closer.
Absolutely do not save your credit card on websites or cash it on your machine. If a bad actor gets a hold of your credentials on your machine or you're storing it somewhere, the bad actors can get to it to the point where make sure that you're not using your ATM machine card or your debit card for online transactions. If bad actors get a hold of that account, they can empty that account out. You might not be able to make your rent or buy groceries in a week or two because it takes the bank a while to sort those things out.
And advice we've heard over and over again.
If the deal looks too good to be true, If it's a site that you're not familiar with, or maybe a shopping experience through a vendor that you're not familiar with, you really have to do your homework before you make that transaction online.
While you are scouring for the best deals, cyber criminals are ramping up their efforts too to find you. One-stop shopping for the cyber criminal, unsecure Wi-Fi.
It's a totally unsupervised, unmanaged, and unsecure event. If you hook up your laptop or your mobile device to an unsecure Wi-Fi, there could be a bad actor sitting in the parking lot with their laptop up, capturing every keystroke, every piece of data that's going across that network.
Try traveling light this holiday. Let your digital wallet do the shopping. It can hold your credit or debit details, and it can be much safer, but keep your device charged so you can get to your card.
Those transactions are much less riskier and much safer for consumers.
Our thanks to our Dawn G for trying to help us make ends meet. Yeah, cyber attacks today more personalized, so don't necessarily think a site is safe simply because they use your name or offer you a deal on that very specific thing you've been searching for. There are tools you can use to look at a website safety before you shop. Perhaps some of those tools you're familiar with, big brands like with Google, they have a safe browsing setup and a tool you could use. And Dawn's story lives right here on wave3.com, of course, on top of all of our in-depth reporting, our troubleshooters investigations, our breaking news updates, everything updated to the minute if possible by our news digital team. So credit to them. But you can, of course, check in on all the different stories we're gathering and sharing with you on the website, wave3.com. Things we share with you if you sign up for push alerts on your phones through the Wave News app, through the Wave Weather app, stuff that we always are making sure we have ready for you at your fingertips. And make sure to join us tonight for Wave News at 11. Looking ahead to what's in store to round out this week in November. How soon are we leaving this particular cold behind? Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harned is going to walk us through that in the 10-day forecast and our original reporting tonight in continuing coverage, of course, of not just what's going on with the investigation of the UPS plane crash, but perhaps with any litigation or sense of accountability on this anniversary of the Givaudan factory explosion. So much to get to tonight on Wave News at 11. Hope you all will join us at the start of that tonight. I'm Jose Sosaya here in the Wave Now studio, and always appreciative of you spending a little time with us, whether that's through your Wave Now app at home or on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X. We will see you all tomorrow night. Until then, take care.